champ is here. I must be the greatest. The champ is here.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people.
The champ is here.
I will not lose.
I'm a bad man. I shook up the world.
Yes, welcome. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with we. My name is EJ, and I got my man,
MH.
Yes, he is the DP of the show, and we are Black in Sports, giving a voice to the culture that won't shut up and dribble. And here today, man, we're bringing you back inside the locker room where we talk about topics in and around the game. MH, you ready to do this? All right, so I'll take that as a verbal yes. Hey, today, man, we want to jump into talking about
my bad. I didn't know I was on mute. My fault, brother.
You know, that Zoom-itis, right? Like we run into that every now and then. But hey, talking about the draft, man, we always have a little bit of a recap show. You know, we definitely lean football heavy on the show. And this is kind of like, it used to be like a mid-Christmas time, you know, when you would think about the NFL draft. And this year, like no other, man, you know, the excitement kind of loomed around. We talked about it in our pre-show, or our not pre-show, but just kind of starting the season, what was on the horizons. And, you know, the Raiders, our hometown team here, having the number one pick. So there was just like, you know, a definite extra buzz around here. But man, just let's jump into it. The 2026 NFL draft held in probably one of the top sports towns, you know, if you think about American sports culture, you know, like a championship town where just like memories and legacies and just great football overall is kind of held. So it'd be fitting that, you know, this year's draft was held in Pittsburgh, man. What's your thoughts about it being in Pittsburgh?
I thought it was cool. I mean, you can't say NFL or spell NFL, or you can't talk about the NFL or the history of the NFL without the Pittsburgh Steelers and what they've done for the NFL and the champions that the organization has been. And you know, I think it was cool to see it there. Obviously, it's moved a few times, and I think one of the coolest parts as a fan of football and of the game, just seeing, I guess, the different eras of the Steelers to start the draft day one that came out on stage. I thought that was pretty cool. The only thing I didn't get to see was AB. I was mad that they didn't make the call to the best receiver in franchise history. I mean, they didn't call God about that one. Maybe he would have came from the NO. He got a song about it. He would have pulled up. So, I mean, he could have did there's always a house band. He could have did that too. 2 for 1.
He is performing, right? Or unless he's like still running from the law, who knows?
Yeah, he probably doesn't want to come back to the country. You're right. I forgot about that little detail. But well, other than that, man, I thought it was cool. I think it's like a good place to host the draft, and obviously, I guess the numbers say they did really well from folks showing up. So
yeah,
all good.
805. Which is a good beer over here in the West Coast, as some tell me. But yeah, that was their attendance numbers. I don't know where I'm attempting, you know, this is where I need my young EP stats to kind of hit me up, because I was wondering, where did they sit up on, you know, some of the breakdowns. But I mean, that's still top numbers, right? 805 for the attendance. And I don't know if that was first day or, you know, overall. But with that, I think it's just the destination, right? Like you're talking about Pittsburgh, Philly's close, you know, Detroit's close. It's just that East Coast or, you know, mid-American kind of city that it's a lot easier for, you know, multiple people to kind of come down. And if you've never been to an NFL draft, or, you know, just an NFL fan, because they do so much more around the draft than just what's on that front stage in that first day. So, you know, it's kind of cool that they're traveling to those different cities. But it'd be interesting to see where they ranked. But it looks like just with this traveling, I think the NFL has caught on to something. Traveling to the different cities is just really bringing and connecting the fans and giving them something to do and be involved with the whole kind of the pageantry of the draft day.
Yes, it's kind of interesting. I mean, shout out to the NFL for, like you said, the other elements that go on kind of throughout the week leading up to the draft. And, you know, I think the more involvement of the current players, especially those that are in that home city. I think they do a good job of involving them into the pick announcements or just kind of the show, the atmosphere at the draft. I think it's really cool because, you know, if you really break it down, the draft isn't it's not really meant for like fans with respect, right? You know what I mean? Like it's meant for the, you know, the football personnels and them improving their teams. And, you know, there's other stories and stuff that you get to learn about the players and you know, other things you can evolve, but ultimately it's really football oriented, similar to the combine, which the NFL has flipped both of those head, and it's been a very spectator driven event. So shout out to them.
And I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you mentioned the combine, right? Because they're talking about, if not this year was the last year, maybe next year, that they're going to attempt to start rotating the combine, which I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. Just for the function of what the combine means to the actual teams that are involved with that. I know there's other things there, but you know, downtown Indy is pretty walkable, and it just serves as a good place for an event like that.
I agree. I definitely agree. So, but yeah, the pageantry. So you go around. This draft was interesting, to say the least. There was a lot of thoughts around what this draft was, and you know, you have the talking heads, we'll call them, that have probably already come out with the 2027 draft list and picks and where people are slated. And it's just so interesting how you see where people start the season when they're talking about it to where people ended the season, and it has a lot to do with who has what pick. So I think that really changed the dynamic of the draft this year. And without kind of further ado, and you can comment on that as well, but without further ado, I just think, you know, Raiders having the number 1 draft pick, and, you know, the need or the want is kind of like really securing, you know, that, you know, who's going to be that team talent and, you know, quarterback for the foreseeable future, right? Like most teams want that franchise quarterback for your offense and build around that. And then, you know, just to see what Fernando Mendoza has been able to do, it just kind of really started stacking and adding up, and just seems like it made sense, and you just kind of hope it works out.
No, 100%. You know, a different perspective from the Raiders, I think, since Jamarcus Russell, where you don't, you know, you can determine, you know, your fate, so to speak, and how you want to move a little bit. And so, yeah, congratulations to Fernando and his family, and seemed like a you know, something that, I mean, from public eye, that was going to happen,
right?
And it's just a matter of just, you know, getting to draft day and making it official. So looking forward to him leading the franchise.
No, 100%. And it's, you know, it's great that, I don't know how much is brought up about that. You know, true, probably Raider fans understand that, but you know, your last first round draft pick was a quarterback, and, you know, the excitement around that, and then what ended up happening. It doesn't seem like that's really on the minds of a lot of fans this year, right? And you're talking about 2 totally different kind of quarterback talents and the way they had to work. Because, you know, Jamarcus is just a really natural talent, and sometimes that can be a gift or a curse when it comes into putting the work in and, you know, studying film and looking at blank tapes, right? But I think it's a total different, we know it's a total different kind of makeup of what this quarterback is, and hopefully how he can be, you know, a long-standing, you know, quarterback with the franchise.
Yeah, and, you know, I think a different franchise, so to speak, too. You know, different people, different personnel, and different coach, you know, making those selections and going through the process of how they make selections. And I think a different form of pressures for the quarterbacks coming in. You know, if you remember, Jamarcus Russell was coming in. He was in that old kind of contract scale type of thing where he coming in, he might be, you know, a top 5 highest paid, you know, quarterback or player in that position. And, you know, now there's a rookie scale, and, you know, there's layers to it. So, you know, maybe that takes some, you know, maybe that was some added pressure on to, you know, him, and, you know, a different structure in college where, you know, Fernando, I'm sure, has made some money at some point, right? And it's come up on that, and maybe it's not as huge of a jump as far as responsibility and things that are off the field for him. And we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell that.
Absolutely. Hey, but hold on really quick. I gotta take this selfie. My first post on LinkedIn since my new job.
Shout out to him, man.
If you didn't see that commercial. And I think that's a great point, MH, man. Just where this, and for this and forever, or just kind of foreseeable future of what athletes are coming into because of NIL and these different, partnership agreements that they're able to do. And they're standing on a different mindset to where, he did a Boss commercial on draft day, when draft days are known for the suits and the pageantry and like, what they're wearing, what was my draft day fit, and like, the jokes we could look back at how like Carmelo Anthony and then when they got drafted and what Big Ben wore, on his draft day, to like how it's progressed over time and things like that. But yeah, I mean, he has a Boss contract and the LinkedIn, and he's doing something with the family awareness stuff, right? And then even the organization, right, had plans for him after he got drafted to kind of already ingratiate him to the organization and the Latino community here in Las Vegas. So different mindset of the players that are coming in now, especially on the money aspect.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, I guess going back to the location, I do kind of miss that element of the draft a little bit as far as a person that watched it growing up, of just seeing all the players, take the stage and shake the commissioner's hand. And as it's moved, for a lot of different reasons, players can choose to opt in or opt out. And maybe they did that in the past more. I just wasn't as hip to it. But I do kind of miss that element of just seeing the top draft picks in the green room, walking the stage and having that moment. But, all good.
And yeah, he chose to be with his family and, do the foundation things. And like you said, others choose, or they make that determination like, hey, we believe you're going to be, I think it was the top 12 maybe that they asked. I forget the number, if it's increased or decreased over the years, but they kind of say, hey, like, you're kind of on that cusp or on that bubble. What would you rather do? Joe Thomas, what was he, a tackle for Cleveland Browns a few years ago? He went fishing with his dad, so there's just different reasons and different seasons for people why they choose. But I agree, that's an element that's missing. One element that they can get rid of is the booing stuff, starting the damn draft out. Like, I still think that it's so bad, and I get that it's supposedly, air quotes for our audio listeners, supposed to be a part of the draft. So much so that the ESPN commercial that they did, because ESPN has a Super Bowl coming up this year, they did a draft in the room. Like, the ESPN commercials are usually funny. And then they just had someone boo him when Roger Goodell walks in and says who gets it. I was like, come on, man. That's like my least favorite part of the draft. If there's somehow we can get rid of that.
They're not getting rid of it. If anything, you're going to sell it, honestly. And it's going to be the booze presented by Bose headphones or something. Sound bars. One of these things.
Hey, yeah. You right on chat, right? Because it talk about noise cancellation. Boom.
There you go. Whatever the headphones are. I'm telling you, he gonna come out with some headphones in a couple years.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that thing. Now, was there? So, we were spending a lot of time on, of course, our first draft pick, man, because I think that was the news. I mean, for us. But it just almost seemed like it wasn't that hyped of a draft this year. And I think you have that a lot of times when there's not a lot of quarterback prospects. Or shout out to our man KPTV. He did his post about generational talent. So we'll definitely put that up. But, there wasn't anybody that was like just named that generational talent that we had to watch, right? There's not like the freak like Javon Curse is coming out, or just Javion Clowney they had after his, one play that just shocked the world. But just didn't seem like there was a lot of generational talent coming out for this draft. Now, it doesn't make it a bad draft. I believe it's a lot of talented players in it. These are players, because a lot of times are the players in the third and fourth round, that end up making these, legacies and long time, maybe not for the team they're drafted with, but just in the NFL. And I think that's what we have. We have a collection of solid, great employees for the NFL for the foreseeable future, and just no one with big names today. But I think that throughout the game, the teams that they're on and the opportunities they get will be able to create names for themselves.
Yeah, no, I think whoever, and I think that may even be a product to college football and how it's evolved and who's entering the draft and when they're entering the draft and what we know of them or what we don't know of them and what program they're associated with or what programs they've been associated with in their career. So I think that all has a element to it, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't know if it was a huge quarterback draft outside of Carl Mendoza, although Ty Simpson was a surprise, and that might have been the biggest kind of lightning rod of the first round about his selection and his coach's reaction or lack thereof or whatever it is to it.
And now his media scrambled to like, oh, it wasn't like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's something. So I think it was a little bit of that as well. But to your point, all really solid players, and I think the really good thing about it is I mean, you're going to get a lot of players, which is different from, let's call it maybe some of the other sports, is where the players that you're drafted from day 1 to day 2 to even obviously some in day 3, those are going to be starters on your team next year, right? And so we'll have, as whatever team you support, you'll have some familiarity with them, and hopefully they make good impact. Shout out to Zachariah Branch and Jeremy Bernard, local kids that one was drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the other to Atlanta Falcons. Play here at Bishop Gorman at Liberty High School. But it's been really cool in my line of work and seeing them as, let's call it 8th graders, and now seeing them on draft day is really cool and a testament to the community that supported them get to where they're at. So shout out to those guys.
Absolutely. And it's always great to see those local talents, make those maneuvers. Going from talent, whether you're talking local here in Las Vegas, but just from the HBCU realm, there has been that push and that migration and the conversation when you had, people like Prime joining HBCUs, and then a lot of the former athletes and NFL stars going to coach and still coaching, right? And just the push for these programs to get notoriety, the things like we had Steve Weiss that does the, HBCU Legacy Classic Bowl, all these things, the NFL's effort, for what they're doing for their combine. We still had no HBCU players drafted in this year's draft, and now that's consecutive, or maybe it's a three-peat. I don't. It's 2 or 3 years that we've had HBCU players not be drafted. They're still going to get some attention. They're still going to get some camps. A lot of people don't talk about the undrafted free agents. The people that don't make it in. But it's just something about being drafted, having that moment, when you're fighting that uphill battle. So that's tough to still continue to see. I don't know how we fix that. I don't know, what the thoughts are behind it, but it is still sad that for whatever reason it is that we're pitching shutouts 3 years in a row.
I mean, it's going to be tough, and just because of the nature of the game. You're going to get those all SWAC players, all MEAC players. And I mean, it's their choice if they want to stay in school or not. But if they're underclassmen and have opportunities with eligibilities, why not test your mettle at a SEC school or a Big Ten school? If you have that opportunity to do so, you can make a little money. You can play, I would say in totality, just, a wider lens, so to speak. And so I think it's going to be tough. What is unknown, or maybe not talked about, as you said, as much for the guys that are like undrafted, so to speak. In some ways, it might be even an advantage for them because you can, if you're able to get a rookie contract or go on as a UDFA, you can kind of determine what best situation is or what situation is best for you if you have those options, right? And sometimes that might lean in their advantage even more. It's something that we look at, and you mentioned all the great stuff that the NFL and the attention that everything is growing there. I think the HBCU combine is not just running 40s or something. It's essentially a job fair for a lot of HBCU students across the country as well. So I think there's all positives, and I'm sure that number will change, or maybe won't change, but the opportunity to focus is there as well.
Absolutely. And just, I mean, as to devil's advocate, man, you don't want the solution to be leave that institution and have to play somewhere else, right? And I think that's a decision that is a tough decision, right? Like if we're talking about, our kid or if our client or whatever, and you're looking to maximize their potential, that's currently the Band-Aid, but it's not the fix, right? Because as scouts look for, a receiver in the 3rd round or FBS or wherever, we need to find out what it is that's that missing piece. Because you have people, the thing about Ty that went to from Alabama that went to the Rams, his knock was he played 9 games or 15 games or something like that, but they still felt it was enough, stuff or potential there to grow him. Then you have the kid that came from Africa, right, that went to that combine, the HBCU combine. He didn't go to a traditional HBCU school, but he got to go through that combine, and his physical measurements or whatever were enough to get him drafted, and then didn't the Raiders pick up a kicker that learned how to kick off of YouTube? So I get that is a easy fix, but I think that there's just more, and I don't know about the work or what we need to do. We probably need to do a show on this because I think the HBCUs are kicking around having an overall matrix so they can rank teams and kind of put them in some kind of power scale. I think that may help because now, when you're looking at a whole bunch of things and you don't know how to do apples to apples or grade people, maybe that consolidation will help. I just don't think that, saying, hey, jump to a different school, to maximize your opportunities is the overall fix. It's kind of a Band-Aid.
Maybe, but I mean, you could even say that for Coach Prime's current school. I don't think anybody was drafted out of there, and we've talked ad nauseum about the kids that transfer out of his program into a different program or into his program from a different program. So, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily just HBCUs. I just think that's what college athletics are right now. And whatever you feel, however an individual feels that maybe they're the scope or lens or the spotlight is brighter, or maybe these or bigger or universities just have more money to offer them, and it's a chance to take care of yourself and family, and have an opportunity to maybe the scouts are going to be there, right? So yeah, I hear you. I just think it's just I think it's just the nature of beast of college athletics right now. Maybe they will limit transfers, and you can only transfer one, and maybe we'll see less of that. I'm not sure, but as it currently stands, I think that's just going to be the nature of the beast, to be honest.
And I don't believe Colorado's been 3 years without having someone drafted because we know their son and some of the receivers and other people got drafted. So it's just something, just to kind of watch and figure out. And because when you think about it, you want to put people in position for them to kind of like execute and fulfill their dreams, right? And if it is what it is, you have to make those kind of choices in life and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So any kind of big moments that was for you, right? Because let me start with this. How was your draft weekend this year? Because it's fun. We both work in sports. And, sometimes, you hear Colin Cowherd and other people like, oh, I was tapped in and I was on my couch for 36 hours or whatever. How was your draft weekend experience? What did you do for this draft?
I mean, like I said, I wasn't as knocked in, and maybe because the local team, kind of knew what was going to happen there. So it took a little bit out of the excitement. I was cool with the Cowboys. They had a couple first-round picks, and Caleb Downs being one of them. I think he was one of the top players, or he was really cool to watch in school. And so the Cowboys get him. That was cool. But my draft weekend was busy, but it was a lot of activity that was everything around the draft and not necessarily watching the draft itself. I had very minimal time to do that. And there was a team in New York that's in the playoffs right now that also piqued my interest around that time. So anyway.
I was wondering. We almost got through it without that team mention. Anyway, same. I mean, something a little different for me. And I went to my first like draft party, right? Like I've worked the draft, of course, a few years during my time working with the NFL, and then just being around it, always kind of watching. But was my first time like going to a draft party as just a fan. So shout out to the Raiders for that invite. And it was number one pick, something to be super excited for, just see how they activated. So I want to say it was definitely a cool experience. It was great to see how they how they rolled out the carpet, how the presentation went. Kind of like you said, the draft does. They did their own, bringing former players, current players, and the organization to speak to the crowd. Food, drinks. It was at a really indoor-outdoor venue here in Las Vegas. It's just amazing. Had a dope kind of graphic art put on the tower for the whole city to see, and just did a great job. And just to see the crowd's excitement for definitely the first round. And then as it kind of got down later, people were just buzzing. And then the best part about it was had the Mendoza jerseys on deck. So a few hours passed, and then they started giving away, tossing out free Mendoza jerseys, and had the official jerseys for sale at the event. Just well done all the way around for the Raiders organization, man. And I just hope that excitement kind of continues onto the field.
Yeah, no, I mean, and shout out to the Raiders. They do a great job with that. And draft day 2, they had a party at the headquarters that I actually was there.
Okay.
And it was and I should probably mention that. It was really cool. It's not often that the community is as a whole inside the facility, so them having access to the indoor part of the field, and as you mentioned, food and excitement, and Mendoza was first introduced to the community there, and seeing him on the stage, and his family being there, and all those type of things. A long day for him, I'm sure. I'm sure he took a good nap after that, but yeah, no, all fun and everything.
All right, man. So different kind of draft day recap, man. I really wanted to keep it, simple and kind of like on the preview of things. I know we will in the live show jump into how people think other teams did, but just kind of starting off for you, man. I'm starting not to like draft grades. I really used to like watching draft grades, but now they don't mean as much to me. Just kind of what we talked about. Things are not the same as for franchise, man. We're getting new head coaches, in some institutions every 4 years if it's not success. The way people come into the league and all of these there's so many different matrix that you can kind of judge on how a team does. Just a draft pick, how do you say if a person's an A, B, or C? So just really not in the draft grades anymore. So we can't talk about them if you want to talk about draft grades at all. But I just think they lost their luster to me.
Yeah, I just think there's how do I say this? And it's always been this case where you can trade and sign free agents, and the draft is all a part of the team building for next year. But maybe there's just too many at this point. I'm about like too much information, but you get anywhere from Mel Kiper to Todd McShay to ESPN to NFL to PFT to Black in Sports to it's like, dog, not everybody's qualified to make this. Not everybody has the rubric or whatever that's called. So
shout out,
it is what it is.
100%. All right. Any moments that you caught up on? Because like I said, it really wasn't for me like that. Any moments, because we've seen moments from the COVID era to the what they say for family and friends and parents to do. Were there any moments that caught your eye or that you seen memed from the weekend?
I mean, not as much as in the past. I think the moments that stick out to me are like before and after. Like one, Travis Hunter's wife on the ethics of what you should do as a wife or girlfriend. When that selection process happens, I thought that was interesting. Yeah. And then I think what's more interesting to me is probably when those first day picks talked to the media and had the press conference the next day for the first time, where you can kind of see their personality come from, all the, I guess, correct answers, or I'm so excited to be here, or kind of focused thing like they do on the stage, which I'm sure is all very authentic to when they've had some time to decompress a little bit and really,
Right.
talk about how they're feeling the next day. I like those moments a little more now.
Nice. I like that. Looking forward to that. And you said, like you said, man, these kids, right, for lack, are just so much more polished and trained and, getting money before this, right? Some of them may have had more money in the bank kind of stepping in, depending on where they're getting drafted and pulled in. So you're not seeing those moments. And I think this lessons learned that everybody is attempting to watch out for so much. So definitely didn't get a lot of crazy of those memeable moments, or they just haven't fully made it out yet. So, but no, I really like that, man. For the team, the players to get with the team, and then just to see the gelling process. So it just is one more thing to just get you excited for when season is coming, right? It's just that much closer. So excited for that. Anything else for the people before we get out of here, MH?
Nah, man, I think that was good, brother.
Awesome. Well, that was the Black in Sports 2026 draft recap.
Draft grade.
Great.
You got a draft grade? You
No,
got a grade of the draft? Not necessarily your team. What's your grade of the draft? If we as official.
So
Black in Sports grade.
official Black in Sports grade is an A-, because
A-.
anything less than an A because of the championship city that it was in. I don't know if I should just grab my towel and start twirling it or not. I'm abstain. But no, the city was great. The fact that they got the viewership, I like the way you said they incorporated everything. Even just the international stuff that they're doing. Like, they've been doing it for years, but it seems like they're really leaning into having the international teams, especially with the different teams claiming different cities as host cities or partner cities. Overall, man, they did a good job, right? Because it's a TV product. So it was good. My heart was kind of in an emotional place because I didn't get a chance with scheduling to make it to the draft this year, and a city that I have love for. But no, they showed the city and how some of the parts of the city was activated. I think overall, A-.
I love it.
Awesome. All right, anything else for the people before we get out of here, MH?
No, we good, brother.
I love it. All right, well, hey, thank you all for listening, man. Like I said, that was our draft recap. Please tell us what you think. We had a couple of things in there. And if you want to give your team a draft grade, please go ahead, by all means, do that in the comments. Like we say, excuse me, new episodes dropping every Thursday. So please make sure you're following us on our YouTube page. If not, follow us wherever you listen to audio podcasts. And just know, as always, please stay safe, practice gratitude, and know we're rooting for you.
Screaming, all us blacks got is sports and entertainment until we even.
Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo. Look. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade new rags. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. That's everybody from sports to college class to rap.